I am ready.
All right, cool. So we're recording from now.
Okay, perfect. All right, so thank you for your time, Kylie. I just had some questions I wanted to ask you about the benefits of LinkedIn for all types of businesses, really. So I guess the first question is whether you believe that LinkedIn has value for all types of businesses. So whether that's a large business, whether that's a B2B, whether that's a small business that's focused on retail customers, for instance, a sole trader business. Do you see it being valuable for all of those different types of businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really great question. And the reason I think it is valuable for all types of businesses is I think now more than ever, people will learn about you online before they meet you in person. So
Yeah.
no matter if you're a small business, if you're a large business, or anything in between, part of the consumer or customer buying journey is that they'll want to validate you and they'll go online to do that. Now, because LinkedIn's big and it's got a lot of backlinks and activity and all things that Google likes, if someone does Google search your name, whether it be your personal name or your company page, or pardon me, your company name, it's highly likely that your LinkedIn profile is going to come up in those Google search results. So I
Sure.
think any business really wants to be able to claim and influence that digital presence in that digital space. So
So
yeah,
LinkedIn is
absolutely.
high up on that, yeah?
Yeah,
From a
absolutely.
Google search perspective, yes?
Yeah, absolutely. So if I put your name into Google, for example, one of the top results will actually be your LinkedIn profile,
Okay,
which
great.
is probably
Okay.
a good activity for, most people to do, just jump in and go through that customer journey and that customer experience.
And you're right. I mean, this is something I regularly post about like this expectation that everyone has a digital
Mm.
profile or presence now, yeah? So LinkedIn is a big part of that, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just another space for you to control or influence the narrative of what is actually, about you online.
Yep. I saw a great quote the other day, actually, and it described LinkedIn as like the window to your brand as
Yeah,
such.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. And I guess you've probably just touched on this, but we'll drill down a bit further into those smaller B2C businesses in particular. What do you think are the real other values that would be available to those smaller scale businesses focused on customers?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we've talked about, I think the digital first impression concept is really important. So people will learn about you online. They will make an assessment based on what they read. And you might not know the opportunities you're missing because people are bouncing off your profile. So there's absolutely that side of it. But I think, particularly for the smaller B2C customers, there's some additional benefits. So, for example, customer research. So they can use LinkedIn as a tool to research their ideal customer, get an idea of more insights on them, the content that they share, and what they're interested in as well.
Yeah.
Also, the opportunity to build networks, and those networks can be within their broader business community. So it's a way to stay connected with their business community. Also, suppliers and different potential referral partners as well. So
Yep.
even though it might not be primarily used for customer acquisition and lead generation, they could use it to cultivate and nurture relationships with other professionals in their network. And it really opens up the scope of the who those people are, because we're not limited now to geography and just the people we meet at face to face. We
Sure.
can be reaching out and connecting and having conversations with people who are really anywhere in the world, and using LinkedIn even as a small business to cultivate that message and develop those relationships.
And there's perhaps it's potentially further validation for a small business if it's partnering with a large business or a thought leader or something, yeah, on
Yeah,
LinkedIn.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
that social proof concept,
Yep.
that shows who they're aligned with, shows the type of businesses that they're working with as well. And it's really interesting, I think, from a reach perspective, the opportunity for smaller businesses where they might not necessarily have, some of the really big budgets that the larger corporates have to spend on marketing.
Yep.
LinkedIn's essentially a free tool that they can use. And absolutely, it's going to be a time commitment, but the financial commitment to it could be a potentially smaller cost than,
Yep.
than say another marketing avenue. So then those challenges around competing against bigger organizations who might have more resources, it mitigates that a little bit.
That's a really great point, and it really caters to people being able to provide evidence, yeah,
Yeah,
of what they do, like
absolutely.
media evidence, for instance, testimonials, all of that. It's really encouraging businesses to market and promote themselves and provide that physical evidence for people to
Yeah,
see.
absolutely.
Yep,
And I think that's the intent that people go to the platform with. So I think absolutely, Facebook and Instagram absolutely has its place. But
yep,
when people go to LinkedIn, they go with a different mindset and a different approach. So it's more in
very
that
true.
professional space, it's more in that education, looking to learn approach. So again, even if you are smaller business to consumer,
Yep.
your audience is likely to be there and be in that mode when they're in LinkedIn or on LinkedIn.
That is a really valid point. And I guess what would you say, and you've probably again covered this to some degree, but what would you say a LinkedIn presence is likely to convey to potential customers? So it's going to convey that you take yourself seriously. What else do you think it could potentially convey?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it can really convey your personal brand and your company brand. So
Yeah.
I think for all businesses, whether they're small businesses or larger businesses, I do think now more than ever, people want to get to know the person behind the business and the
Yes.
person behind the profile. And they want to know more about their values and their vision and their mission and their thoughts and their insights. So I think with that in mind, I think LinkedIn, particularly the personal profile, allows you to express that in a really appropriate and professional way that's going to engage with your audience. So, for those smaller businesses, it's being able to showcase your expertise, your thoughts, your leadership concepts and your insights. And it gives people that insight into the person behind the
Yeah,
profile.
yeah, the personality aspect as
Yeah.
well.
Mm.
And is there any difference in how small businesses should leverage LinkedIn versus large businesses? Would you say there's any standout differences between the two types of, or the two sizes of businesses?
Yeah, that's a good question because I've worked with businesses who are single operators right through to multi-site locations. And it's interesting. I think the principles are the same.
Yep.
The tactics and the strategies might be slightly different because they'll have a different audience, they'll have different resourcing, have different capabilities. But I think essentially we want to look at three things. So we want to be looking at their profiles. So
Yep.
that's their personal profiles and their company page, and just making sure it's really reflective of their business and it aligns with some marketing strategy.
Yep.
The second thing that we like to look at is their activity, which is the content. So what content are they sharing? What content are they commenting on? Like what's the content? And then their connections, which is how they reach out, connect, and engage. So I think from no matter if it's a smaller business or a larger business, they do need to have all those three things working together.
Yes.
However, the scale of that would vary. So for a small business, they might not necessarily need the volume that a larger business would have. So it could be a more targeted campaign.
Yes.
A,
More
a
low
smaller,
key as well, perhaps with
yeah,
resources and
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
A smaller business might be more focused on the owner being leading the brand,
Yes.
whereas a larger corporation or a larger business would lead more with a company presence and a company first approach.
Yep.
So I think there's definite differences between them. And it's just identifying, I guess, what's going to work best in each of those situations.
And something you touched on before, which I've actually encountered just recently with a client who's got their own business and we've set up a profile. Do
Yeah.
you see value in most businesses also having a company page?
Yeah, I really like company pages.
Just looks more professional,
Yeah.
like when telling
Yeah,
the client, yeah?
yeah, I think so. I would encourage every business. I'm trying to think of an example where I wouldn't, but I can't. So
Yeah.
I I think in most instances, I would absolutely encourage people to have a company page. And there's a couple of reasons for it. The first one is just to claim the domain. So when you
Yep.
create a company page, yeah, it creates a www and your company name in the domain. And you want, and there's only one for every sequence of words. So
Yep.
you want to, and it's and you want to make sure that you've got that for your organization or your business. So someone else can't come along and actually create a company page under your business. So at the very least, having it so that you've got it as opposed to being in the market for someone else to acquire. Secondly, it allows you to link to the company page. So you can then, it brings over the logo to your personal profile. And I think that just elevates the professionalism of it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I was saying. And
Yeah.
yes, it's just another, like, to keep them interested, they can go through then to your
Yeah.
company page from your profile or vice versa.
Yeah.
Just keeping them looking at you, yeah,
Yeah,
investigating. Yeah.
absolutely. It just kind of looks very polished. But the third reason is, and I've been talking about this with a couple of people lately as well, is if you've got a strategy at some point to exit your business, your personal profile is tied to you. So that's not something that you can transfer to someone else.
Yes. Yes.
Whereas if you've got a company page and you build out an audience and you build that engagement, that can actually become a digital asset that
Yep.
you can use if you decide to exit or sell your business down the track. So,
Yep.
and it's
Yep.
really interesting. I was actually talking to someone about this, and they were talking with a business broker about, they plan to exit their business within a particular time period. And one of the recommendations they had was to actually build out these digital assets so that
Uh-huh.
the new owner does have a really, having that presence could be really compelling to someone who wants to buy your business.
Again, it ties in with that, just how professional it makes
Mm.
you look, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is probably more specific to what you do. I guess I just want to round out this conversation by asking, how can you personally help various businesses to enhance their LinkedIn presence? Like, what do you
Yeah.
focus on for across a range of businesses?
Yeah, thank you. I think the starting point is really looking at the strategy. So identifying who the audience is, what the value proposition is, and working through those elements of their profile, the content strategy and the communication strategy. So
Yep.
when I work with clients, again, no matter if they're smaller businesses right through to larger businesses, that's typically our starting point. Because if we've got our strategy really clear, what that means is any questions that come up, do I put this in my profile, or what content do I post, or do I accept connections from these people? It always comes back to our strategy and it guides the decision making process moving forward. So when I work
Yep.
with clients, it's typically in that space so that they can get really clear on that strategy piece, and help guide them moving forward through that decision making process. But yeah, I think having that strategy is really important and foundational, and it does make everything else that comes off it a lot easier and a lot more purposeful.
Yeah, and it probably to some degree, I mean, so I'm a career brand consultant. Again, I'm helping people to build those
Yeah,
foundations. Yeah. So yeah, to be clear on their future objectives, etc. So that your LinkedIn strategy obviously would tie in with that as well. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay. Well, that's all the questions I have. So
Thank you so much for having me.
thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good afternoon.
You too.
Bye. Let me stop recording.